Hi everyone! Today we're going to be talking about how you can design your very own board game. There's a lot of really cool board games out there. Now it's your turn. You are going to design one that your family is going to want to play. And as you remember, we're talking about a math theme for your board game. Now, last week we had time to research board games. We had some time to develop our concept, where we had to think about what do we want our game to be about. This week we're going to talk about actually building the game, finding the materials that we're going to use. So I wanted to give you some suggestions today of how you can build your board game. All right, so here's option number one. I am going to put on my website some templates that you can use to build your board game. Now, a template is just an outline, all right? You have to make it your own. You can color code it. You can connect things to have little bridges that if people land on that space, they get to go over here. You can write things right on the spaces that people have to do if they land on those spaces, okay? So even though they're just templates for now, you are going to make them look really cool with your designs, okay? What I'm also going to be putting on the website is a dice that you can actually build and card outlines. That if you want to have cards in your game, this will give you a nice outline to print out. Okay, so that'll all be on the website. So that's one option, using a template that I'm going to post on the website. Now, you might not have a printer at home, and maybe you don't want to just use a template that someone else created. That's your choice. So you might want to build your own original board game. Here is an option for you. When you went home, you took home a learning package with you inside of a file folder. Well, guess what? You can use this file to build your board game. Just open it up and you've got that nice big space there to draw your board game. Be as creative as you want to, but this is a nice big canvas for you to build your board game, okay? So you can start on one side, come across another, and around and so on. Spaces for cards and whatnot. If you close it, you can draw the cover of your board game as if it's the cover to your game like this, right on here. Wouldn't that look cool? So if you don't want to do a template, you can use your file folder and design your game inside. All right, that's option number two. Option number three is to just get some nice big paper and go at it. Remember the video that I showed you on my website last week? That man created a board game of his own by using his pencil and drawing a wavy line through his board game, and he drew it in a light pencil because then he didn't press hard. Then what he did was he drew two lines on either side of it, equal distance apart, okay? Then he erased that middle line. Then he closed it off, he drew all the spaces, he color coded it, made it look really cool. So you could do something like that as well. If you don't want curvy lines, you can use a ruler and make nice straight lines and do like a box around the edge of your game, okay? Use a ruler for a straight line. Do not try to freehand a straight line. It never turns out well, all right? Don't forget, you need to leave space somewhere on your game for the title of your game. You have to name it, all right? So for example, you have to put the name of whatever it is right on your board game, all right? That's option number three, just a big white piece of paper, okay? Another option, which is something you might be able to do, but please talk to your parents first, is take an old board game that you don't use anymore. Maybe you found one at a yard sale, no one played it, and it's just sitting in your cupboard. Ask your parents if it's okay, and then you can put some paper inside and make your own board game out of it. This is my daughter Maddie's board game. She created a board game for the book, The Outsiders. It was for one of her projects that she had to do for school. So as you can see, and I'll just show it to you here, she had a start and an end, and she made a curvy line all the way around with pictures from the book, color-coded spaces, and you notice how she outlined in Sharpie to really make it pop. And I expect the same from you, okay? Nice, you have a black marker at home, maybe you have Sharpies at home. You could do the same thing, all right? So then she just glued the white paper or taped the white paper inside of an existing board game. So that's an option, but that's when you have to ask your parents if it's okay. You don't want to just take one of their board games and glue white paper inside. All right, so there's three options for you for building the board game. Template, file folder, white paper, or an old board game. Now you might wonder, how am I going to get people moving around my board? All right, maybe you're going to use dice. Maybe you can use the template of dice and just print it off a printer. Maybe you'll use a spinner. Okay, you can build a round spinner and have something that you spin, or a pencil and a paper clip that you spin around, and it'll tell you how many spaces that they get to move forward. Now here's a really fun question. What are your players going to use to move around the board game? Well, when Maddie made her game, she created little character faces and put them in clay, like that, using a shrink material. Okay, you might have that at home. One brand name is Shrinky Dinks. You might find something else. It's just shrink paper, okay? And she made little people. You can use anything you like. You can build characters out of clay. You can use things that you have around home, like collections that you have, buttons or little players and little games that you've collected, little Pokemon things even, players that move around your board game. Okay, so you have to decide, what are they going to look like? Your tokens that they move around the game, okay? So there's some examples from my daughter Madison. Now, here's another thing. Some people like to use cards in their game, all right? Here's an example of what Maddie did. Remember I showed you her color-coded board? There's all kinds of colors on here. Each color represented a character from the story. Okay, so if somebody landed on gray, they had to pull a gray card. And on the gray card was a question from the story. All right, so you could do something like that too, that if people land on a space and have to pick up a card, you can have cards prepared. Maybe that's how they get to move around. Maybe they have to go back a few spaces if they pull a certain card. All right, so maybe your game is going to have cards. You can think about that as well. You can even draw fun designs on the outside of your card and a question or something on the other side. All right, so that's everything I wanted to show you. Remember, you're building a board game that other people can play. It has to be playable, so you have to have the ability for your players to move around the spaces. How are they going to get there? What are they going to do when they land on those spaces? Are there going to be special spaces on your board? Okay, are you going to draw it yourself, or are you going to use a template? There's a lot of things for you to consider for your board game design, all right? So take some time to think about it. Look at your concept development page at the ideas that you've used. Remember, your game must be based on math, one of the topics that we covered this year, all right? Okay, everybody, I hope you have a lot of fun with this, and I can't wait to see your board game designs. All right, bye for now.